Today is May the 13th, 2014. It is 13:18 hours. Investigator Bailey and Corporal Pitts are going to be interviewing Officer B.S. Flora, badge 1580, reference ops case number 14A-012. And Officer Flora, I'm going to discuss the Gwinnett County Police Department Garrity Advisory Form with you. We'll go over it. You said, have you ever reviewed this form before?
No.
Okay, we'll go over it here for you. All right. Allegation of employee misconduct must be taken seriously by all concerned. All complainants are warned that knowingly give false statements may result in criminal prosecution. As an employee, you need to understand that for you to refuse to truthfully answer questions relating to the performance of your official duties and or fitness for duty will result in disciplinary action up to and including termination of employment for the violations of GDM Section 20203 entitled Insubordination and GDM Section 20209 entitled Duty Not to Give False or misleading information. You'll be asked questions specifically directed and closely related to the performance of your official duties and or fitness for office. You do not have the right to have an attorney present during this administrative proceeding. The Office of Professional Standards will record the interview, and a copy of the recording may be obtained once a disposition has been made. If an employee surreptitiously records the interview, they will be subject to disciplinary action up to and including termination of employment for the violations of GDM Section 20203 entitled Insubordination. Depending on the nature of the administrative investigation, the Chief of Police or his designee may require you to submit to polygraph examination, participate in a lineup, be photographed, submit financial disclosure statements, and or submit to a medical examination. No, none of that's prevalent today. However, neither the statements nor evidence you provide for the administrative investigation can be used against you in a criminal proceeding except for perjury or obstruction of justice. Above all, please remember that these investigations are designed to protect many interests, including your own. The investigations also identify problems in policies or training, the correction of which will benefit all of us. Your cooperation in this investigation does not constitute a waiver of any appeal, grievance, or other legal rights. Until a final disposition has been rendered and the case formally closed, you're hereby ordered not to discuss this investigation with anyone other than personnel assigned to the Internal Affairs Unit of the Office of Professional Standards, Personal Services Division. And again, this does not preclude the right of an employee to consult with an attorney. But basically, to put it all in a nutshell, it's just an administrative review investigation. So you're required to speak to us because you're an employee, but in the same aspect, there's nothing here that's relevant, that's involving criminal or anything like that.
Right.
And so all we ask you to do is tell us the best you can, the best recollection you have of the events of which we're going to discuss here shortly. Okay?
Yep.
Well, if you understand, if you'll print, sign, date, and time, please. Your watch your watch a little bit faster, so no worries. It's approximately in the recording. We're gonna be 13:21, 13:22, but that's not an issue. Okay, sorry about that. Excuse me. Okay, Officer Flora, do you recall being on duty on April the 28th, 2014?
Yes.
Okay. Do you recall going to the Buford City School headquarters for the school board superintendent and whatnot?
Yes.
Okay, what can you tell me about your involvement in going there?
We got a call for a suspicious person at the school. The dispatcher advised responding units and myself that there was a man standing on the front steps of the city school office with a gun on his hip and smoking a cigarette, carrying a sign. They advised us that they had already asked them to leave, or him to leave. When I got on scene, as I drove up, I saw Sergeant Wilkerson approaching the subject. I got out of my car and approached them, and basically before Sergeant Wilkerson even said anything, the gentleman already just basically was holding a sign about something about Second Amendment rights, and he said he was there doing a peaceful protest regarding his Second Amendment rights, and it was his constitutional rights to do so. Um, uh, we started to question him about, why he was doing it there. He said it was once again he just said it's my right to do so. That's my constitutional rights. I have the right to be here. You can't tell me to leave. The school superintendent, I think his last name is Mr. Hamby, came outside, and he advised myself that he had already asked the suspect, Mr. Cooley, to leave, and he said obviously he would not. He said they were having a school board meeting and it was causing a disturbance in the board meeting because people felt unsafe because he had a gun. Um, Sergeant Wilkerson asked the suspect if he would leave. He said he would not. He asked the suspect to put the gun back in his car, and that way he would have every right to stay there. Mr. Hamby was okay with him staying there if he would, put his gun in his truck. I asked Mr. Hamby if he kept all of his gun, if he wouldn't put his gun away, if he could just go out on the sidewalk and continue his protest, and he said, yeah, that's fine because that's not school property. There's nothing I can do about it. Sergeant Wilkerson then asked the suspect to do that. He would not do that. At that time, Mr. Hamby approached us and came, close enough so the suspect could hear and said, Mr. Wilkerson or Sergeant Wilkerson asked Mr. Hamby if he wanted the suspect to leave the property. He stated he did. At that time, Sergeant Wilkerson turned to the suspect and told him that he needed to leave or he was going to be arrested for criminal trespass. At that time, the suspect turned his back and put his hands behind his back and said, well, arrest me then. At that time, I placed him under arrest and searched him incident to arrest. He requested that we leave his pistol, his hat, cigarettes, and lighter with his wife, who was videotaping the incident. And he requested that he keep his wallet and I believe his pamphlet with constitutional rights in it with him, which I did.
Okay. Then after that,
After that, I placed him in the back of my patrol car. I placed his belongings in my front seat. On the way to the jail, he did make a comment as to I do not consent to any searches and seizures. At the jail, I released him to the deputies on duty. I went out to the magistrate court and obtained a warrant for criminal trespass, which I left copies at the jail and submitted the other copies to records.
okay. This is your original incident report right here that you completed.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Let's go over paragraph 2 here. You discuss in here where you state that I advised Cooley, since Hamby had asked him to leave the premises, he was required by law to do so, or I would have to place him under arrest for criminal trespass. Cooley stated he disagreed with my statement. Hamby approached myself and Cooley. I asked Hamby if he wanted Cooley to leave the premises, and Hamby stated, yes, I want him to leave. I turned to Cooley and told him that he needed to leave the premises. At this time, Cooley turned his back to me and placed his hands behind his back and stated, well, arrest me then. I placed Cooley in handcuffs, double locked, and checked for fit, and searched his person instant to arrest. Okay. All right. So you're saying you did these things right here in this portion right here. You understand where I'm getting at, correct?
Yeah. Yes. This is my original incident report. I did place him under arrest. I was the arresting officer. Sergeant Wilkerson is the person who told him to leave and asked him to leave at first. When he did, I was obviously there. I was standing next to him, and then when Sergeant Wilkerson asked him to do so, that's when he turned his back to me.
Okay.
To us.
I got you. What was the reason why you put I in here for yourself and not Sergeant Wilkerson?
I was the arresting officer. I was standing literally arm to arm with Sergeant Wilkerson. Just since I was the arresting officer, I don't really know. I don't have a good reason for that.
I mean, because we understand when we're writing the reports, we got to make sure we have who said what, and who did
Right.
what. Is that
And that's why I submitted the supplement report, which
okay? Why did you submit that secondary supplemental report?
because I wanted to add more information, have a more detailed report. And I realized later on, after submitting the report and reviewing it, that I needed to add more of the information as to what I did, what Sergeant Wilkerson did.
So, did you take this upon yourself, or were you instructed to write this new supplemental, putting Sergeant Wilkerson?
Sergeant Wilkerson did ask me to review the report, which I already had done. He, advised me it might be a good idea to add some more detail.
Regarding the original or the second one? So was he telling you, I want you to review what you wrote for the original one? Or
He said he asked me to write a supplement report. Well, he didn't ask me to write a supplement report. He said review your original report, and you're probably going to want to add a supplement report to add some additional detail.
So when he meant that, did he mean that he had sent it back for you to review? Was it back, had he sent it through Copper Fire so you could look at it?
I don't believe so. No.
So what do you think he meant by that then? Was to just go back and basically write a sub without saying write a sub?
No, I think he wanted me to add more detail, as far as everything that was said, everything that was done, just because my original report, obviously, as you can see, it's the supplement. It's quite a little bit
Did the
longer.
original ever get kicked back to you through Copper Fire? Do you know?
I don't remember.
You don't know.
But you don't recall. So you don't recall ever going back though and making corrections on this report, though, correct?
I don't think so. No.
All corrections were done
Oh.
through the use of the supplement.
I believe so. Yes.
Okay.
Did anyone, when you wrote it this way initially, did anyone instruct you to write it that way initially?
Mm-mm.
Like, did you have a sergeant or a lieutenant say, please, write it, word it a certain way so that our names aren't listed in the report?
No.
Do you think that was your motive, was to try to avoid them having to be listed in a report?
No, I honestly I was Mr. Cooley, the suspect, and Sergeant Wilkerson he was the first responding officer, the first one on scene. He really hadn't had any interaction with Mr. Cooley without me being there, and me being the arresting officer. Which is the reason why I went through and submitted the supplementary report, because I realized that I wasn't the one that advised him that he needed to leave or he'd be placed under arrest. That was actually Sergeant Wilkerson. But no, that was not mine. I was not instructed to do so. And
I mean, another thing, we're not interviewing you by choice. Like, the suspect that you took to jail is the one that brought this up. He originated this complaint.
okay.
He complained about basically his arrest, and then he complained about the accuracy of the report. So that's the reason we're having to cover this topic, is because we don't go fishing through reports and look to see if there's any little mistakes or anything like that. But when someone brings it to our attention, do you understand how reading these two together, this would cause big problems in court?
Right.
Because any defense attorney is going to read paragraph 2 and read your sup and say, when you get on the stand, officer, did you write this? Yes, I did. So did you say this? Did you tell him he needed to leave the property? Did you ever tell him that?
I did not know.
No. But then he's going to ask you, well, why does it say in paragraph 2 that you said that and
right.
It's just going to look horrible.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be such a conflict that, I'm not sure how it would affect prosecution of it,
Mm-hmm.
Were you ever trained from an FTO or anything to leave out certain people, or did you ever have a sergeant over you tell you, don't put me in that report kind of thing?
No, I wrote the report right after I left the jail, and I honestly just think I just kind of in the moment just wrote it because I was arresting officer. I was there for everything. And
Yeah, because when I was new to the road, and I had to write a report, and I was trying not to put a lot of names in it, if I had to word something like that, I would say, Mr. Cooley was told to leave the property. Mr. Cooley was instructed that he could take his gun off, but I wouldn't put my own name as saying, I wouldn't put, I told him when I didn't. I would say, Mr. Cooley was told. And if it went to court and they needed to know who said that, I would have had trouble a year later remembering who actually said it.
right.
So we would have had to subpoena everybody to come in, which they would have probably done anyway. In a case like this, I'll probably subpoena Sergeant Wilkerson and Lieutenant White. They'll bring them in. They'll say, now which, beforehand, they'll actually meet with them and say, now, do you remember this call? What was it you said? Because the officer didn't do a very good job in Pix's report defining who said what. Now in this one, they're going to get this and think you said everything, so they won't. Who knows? They probably wouldn't even need the other officers, and then the video would come out, and everything else would come out, and the case would, either be dismissed or I don't know what they would do.
You aware there's videotape of this?
Yes.
Okay.
Because the wife was videotaping. So.
Right. And I believe they put it on YouTube.
Okay.
And then I later actually got the video footage on a DVD, which I submitted to.
Okay, and that's
records.
referenced this supplement right here, where this is where the one you submitted right here, where Lieutenant White gave
Correct.
you the DVD to submit. Okay.
I didn't actually view the DVD that he gave me. But
yeah, which wouldn't have been a problem. But wouldn't have been a problem. But to make sure we're clear, as far as when we get back to the basics of the case, when you were out there, you were at the school building, correct?
Yes.
You were at school building. Mr. Cooley was in possession of a firearm there, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And they asked him to leave the school. The superintendent did, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Before we even got there.
Before you even got
and then once we were there.
Okay. In regards to when you got to court, were there any issues involving obtaining the warrant?
There was.
Okay.
There wasn't really, I wouldn't say problems, because I had all the probable cause to obtain the warrant for criminal trespass, which I did. But I don't remember. I think it was Magistrate Russell, if I recall.
It's okay if you don't. That's
I'm not 100% on that, but she questioned me pretty thoroughly and pretty lengthily about why I was using criminal trespass, why she didn't believe it fell into that category.
Was she trying to tell you other charges, or she was trying to tell you there was no charge?
She was questioning that my probable cause for the criminal trespass, which I actually later on found a different code section that actually fits it, which criminal trespass does fit for this case. There's no doubt about that, but there is a specific code section for schools and school property alone, which probably in hindsight would have been a better charge, which is actually a higher charge because it's a high and aggravated nature.
After actually arresting him, putting him in cuffs and everything, he gets stuffed in the car. Did you meet with your sergeant or with the lieutenant, and did you discuss what charges you were going to take?
Mm-hmm.
So you had settled on, just because they were talking about it, criminal trespass, and that's going to be it.
Well,
nothing to do with the gun? I
had originally, being on scene, criminal trespass was the only thing that was really brought to hand. The gun laws regarding where you can carry, where you cannot are so specific, and because it was school property, it was a school building, it was not a school campus. I did, after I had placed Mr. Cooley in handcuffs, I did ask Sergeant Wilkerson if he thought being in possession of a firearm on school property would be appropriate, and he said that's up to you. But I think we definitely have criminal trespass, but we didn't discuss any other charges.
But in regards to that, the issue was, even though yes, the gentleman was carrying a firearm, what it boiled down to is that he was on school property and the authority of the school did ask him to leave, correct?
Correct.
All right, and he did refuse to leave.
Correct, several times.
Okay.
I guess one more time with this. When Sergeant Wilkerson contacted you, was that in person, over the phone? How did he tell you he wanted you to look at this report? And do you remember? Did he send you MDT traffic?
No, I believe it was the following day before roll call. I believe I was there a little bit early, and I believe it was after I had gone through and reviewed the report, because I didn't know it had been already submitted or owner approved or whatever it may be, and that's when he suggested
Do
take
you
a look at it.
remember what he specifically said? He just said, "Look, I want you to look at this and maybe add more detail." Is that how he said it?
I believe that's it wasn't change anything. It was just look at the report, and you should probably add some more detail.
Okay.
I believe that's what he said.
Okay.
Okay. Go over the warrant right quick so we've got the details of the warrant. This is Gwinnett County Arrest Warrant 14W07080. Is this the arrest warrant that you completed, Officer Flora? As far as typing in, I know it's electronic.
It appears to be, yes.
Okay. All right, and just make sure we're going to go over the facts of what because the top paragraph, the affidavit, you did fill out this portion when you applied for the warrant, correct?
Correct.
Paragraph. Okay, and we'll go over that right quick. Basically, the facts you entered in is basically the facts this affidavit arrested based on is, quote, said accused did knowingly and without authority remain upon the premises of the victim after receiving notice to depart by the authorizing representative of the Buford City School District, and prosecutor makes this affidavit that a warrant may issue for the accused person's arrest. So basically, boiling it down, again, he was on the property of the schools and they didn't want him there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Did you have to tell Judge Russell much more besides that? Besides what you had typed? You kind of probably explained it in more detail what the guy was doing.
Yeah, I mean, I explained to her, and one of her arguments was, was he doing anything unlawful on the property? And my argument was he doesn't need to be doing anything unlawful. He was asked to leave by the school representative, being the superintendent.
Did you ever explain to her that he was either smoking and carrying a protest sign and carrying a gun?
I did.
You described all of those, or at least
I
most
did.
Okay.
I did. She knew all the circumstances, and I honestly, all of her arguments really didn't make much sense to me because all of her arguments were arguments of probable cause for the criminal trespass, which all of them we had probable cause for the arrest. So.
Okay. While you were there with Judge Russell, did you tell her any details that you didn't describe to us already when we asked you about that incident? Was there anything? I mean, you didn't have to embellish anything else. You gave her the facts that you gave us. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. You didn't have to. You can't think of anything else that you would have said that if complainant wanted to, he could say you went and lied to the magistrate about.
No, I don't know.
Okay. That's all.
Yeah. So,
And like I said, I didn't even attempt to take any weapons charges or smoking on school property or anything, to that effect. It was simply the criminal trespass, and that was it.
Okay. All right. Well, I don't think we have any more.
I don't have
No
any
more
more. Do you have anything else to add, Officer Moore? Okay. I wanted to end the interview. It is 13:42.